question that I'm asked, and is both understandable and insulting, is how does somebody like you get into some crazy crap like this?
And tonight, she answers. TV star Leah Remini on how she went from one of Scientology's most ardent defenders
Without any Scientology organization, things are not going to change on this planet.
to its most famous defector to go public.
Actress Leah Remini.
She's leaving the Church of
Scientology. She just quit.
Like the tough-talking character she played on the long-running TV series King of Queens.
Shut up. Shut up.
She's now sounding off, even about the church's most famous member, Tom Cruise.
I don't think he's becoming of a Scientologist, jumping on couches. What the hell is this guy doing?
Tracing her beginnings in the controversial New Age religion she was brought into as a child.
Everybody who gets into Scientology gets into it because they believe they are doing good things for people.
How she landed in the church's celebrity center, populated with stars like Kirstie Alley and John Travolta.
Did you read or listen to everything here?
Yes.
To her growing disenchantment with its teachings as an adult.
When I read that, I said, this is some crazy.
But you stayed in the church and kept moving your way up the bridge.
And the beginning of the end at Tom Cruise's wedding, written up that she had ruined it.
Basically, they were just trying to get me to recant what I said, to apologize for ruining the wedding of the century.
Tonight, taking on her toughest critics.
You decided a blanket statement that Scientology is evil. You are my enemy.
And what the fear of leaving cost her emotionally.
You are giving up everything you have ever known and everything you have worked for your whole life.
Troublemaker.
Good evening, I'm David Muir.
And I'm Elizabeth Vargas. What an interview you're about to see with a book title that speaks volumes. Leah Remini's Troublemaker, Surviving Hollywood and Scientology. Her explosive new memoir about her 30-plus years in that controversial religion.
She's already setting off shockwaves on social media, church officials saying she's rewriting history, making up stories to sell this new book. Tonight, what very few people outside the church ever get to see. Here's Dan Harris with the one-on-one.
At 2:30 this past Tuesday afternoon, members of the Church of Scientology arrived in the lobby here at ABC News, hand-delivering this package containing all kinds of damning statements about Leah Remini. But it may surprise you that Leah is already making many of those same statements in her new book.
You say, I am an apostate, I have lied, I have cheated. You then go on to admit that you've been selfish, that you've physically threatened people and been a horrible wife and mother.
Correct. I know what my former church, how they deal with people who tell their story, and so I wanted to be the one to say it.
So you felt if you didn't say this stuff, the church was going to say it for you.
Correct.
The church calls her a liar, self-absorbed, rude, and embarrassing. But before you decide, listen to Leah's side of the story. A story that begins far from the 10,000 square foot LA mansion Remini now occupies. In the place 3,000 miles away, she used to call home. The tight-knit Italian neighborhood of Bensonhurst, Brooklyn.
What was Leah like as a little kid?
She was wild. She was very funny. She made me laugh. Always theatrical.
What kind of kid were you?
I think I was a pain-in-the-ass kid. I always felt like I was kind of an outsider because I didn't have the right things. I didn't have a Cadillac. I didn't have, you know, plastic on my furniture. That was the right way to be if you were Italian.
At age 7, a seismic change in Leah's life. Her parents divorced, and her mom, Vicky, searching for meaning, got deeply into Scientology, the religion founded by the science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard.
When you know the basics of human existence and so forth, you could apply them in almost any sphere.
In your understanding, what is the goal and the promise of Scientology?
To free mankind, to make a sane world.
Vicky was working at Scientology's building in Times Square.
She was never home, really, at the church morning, noon, and night.
It changed the dynamic of our lives, needless to say.
What was told to me was, look at what you're doing for the world. This is more important than your family.
Did you believe that?
Yeah, I'm benefiting the planet by doing this. You know, it'll help my kids in the long run.
Eventually, Vicky decided to bring her daughters Leah and Nicole in, and they started studying Hubbard's teachings and practices and learning his unique terminology.
You learn how to apply the techniques of Scientology to yourself and others.
So for a kid who was always looking around, comparing herself to other people, to be part of a faith where you had a mission to save
the planet,
save the planet, that must have been a big deal.
Yes, and because Scientologists view children as spiritual beings, you're not treated as a kid. So you're given a lot of responsibility. Your ego becomes extremely inflated.
When Leah was a teenager, her mom, Vicky, decided to enroll her in the Sea Org, the pious, uniformed, full-time religious order of the church, and moved the family down to the church's spiritual headquarters in Clearwater, Florida, known as the Flag Land Base.
Those people are all Sea Org members.
Mike Rinder was once the spokesman for the Church of Scientology. That's him in a 2020 report from back in 1998, praising L. Ron Hubbard.
A man comes along who changes the course of history.
Now he's a very public critic who the church derides as a liar, a bitter apostate, and a professional anti-Scientologist. He says this is what today's Sea Org looks like.
They are the people who have dedicated their entire lives to Scientology, who live in communal church facilities, eat in church facilities.
They provide room and board, and you work there and you sign a billion-year contract.
A billion-year contract?
Correct.
You, as a child, signed this contract?
Correct.
Here it is in writing. Scientologists believe in reincarnation, and Sea Org members are expected to keep working every time they come back.
It was very militant for us kids. You're running everywhere, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am.
That's Leah and her sister Nicole in their Sea Org uniforms. Those smiles notwithstanding, they say they were housed in a rundown former motel and that the novelty wore off quickly.
You live in roach-infested dorms with other children.
Disgusting, roach-infested, curtains falling off the window.
And Leah says learning to save the planet first involved long hours and serious labor.
It could go from working in a laundry room to working industrial sanders.
Industrial sanders?
Mm-hmm.
They were resources. They were used to do things. She was a room cleaner. That would have been where she was cleaning the rooms.
And Leah says for her, joining the Sea Org meant leaving traditional school in 8th grade and immersing herself in Scientology study.
It's more your education in Scientology is pressed upon. You're learning how to learn Scientology.
Leah may have been proving herself through hard work, but there were other things preventing her rise in the Sea Org ranks.
I would try to start a mutiny because I felt we deserved better rooms. Although there was food there, it didn't taste like food, and you had to get it at a certain time. I had to fight to eat a hamburger.
Leah says things came to a head when she and Nicole were brought up on ethics charges for their involvement with boys.
I allowed my boyfriend at the time, who was like my first boyfriend, to go like this over my shirt.
And that was enough to get you...
And that was light. That was very light. It wasn't like real, it wasn't a real grab down. Like,
very hard to have this discussion with a straight face.
Sorry.
But we're laughing about this, but the people in Scientology were not laughing about it.
No, I wasn't laughing at it either at the time.
It was a serious violation, and Leah says the church ethics officers threatened to put her and her sister into what's called the Rehabilitation Project Force, a place for Scientologists who step out of line.
When you have screwed up royally in the Sea Org, it's basically to reform you. You have to wear black, you have to run everywhere you go, you have to call everyone sir. It's pretty severe punishment for an adult, not to mention a child.
And I said, this is not going to happen.
And
to be honest, I said, this is not going to happen.
The church says children are no longer admitted into the Sea Org, but that back when Leah was a member, the living conditions conformed to state health codes. The church also says that Leah was dismissed for her inability to maintain the ethical standards related to fraternization. They say Leah petitioned to stay, but failed. Either way, a year into those billion-year contracts, it was over.